A girl on a bike holding up a banner that says, "Mom, I really don't want to get married. I'm 28 years old from Ningbo University, working on my PhD. You don't plan to have children either?" I think it's a big responsibility to raise a child. If I don't understand life myself, how can I guide another human being and teach them about society? I don't think I can. It's too big a responsibility. Our parents' generation probably didn't want to have children until they were ready, so they ended up growing up together with their children. It's really a matter of cost. That is, the cost of raising a child at that time was not as high as it is now, nor was it as competitive as it is now. They are under a lot of pressure, although they all have pensions when they retire. But the next generation in the future, there will be less and less people contributing to society, and more will be relying on the fruits of the previous generation, and the problem of their final retirement is still an unknown. I can't put more pressure on my child. I can't help him much.
According to a report from Xinhua News Agency on September 7th, Xi Jinping, chairman of the Central Military Commission of the Communist Party of China, has recently signed an order to promulgate the measures for the implementation of the People's Republic of China's Population and Family Planning Law by the military, which would take effect from September 10th, 2023. The measures comprise 33 articles, focusing primarily on the real-life needs related to marriage, pregnancy, childbirth, upbringing, and education of military personnel's families. The document underscores the importance of support and assistance, standardizing and strengthening the provision of family planning services, and establishing a comprehensive technical service support system throughout the entire childbirth process. It encourages military personnel to marry and have children at the appropriate age, allowing a couple to have 3 children, and introduces new leave policies such as parental leave and leave for parents with an only child. Since the introduction of the 3-child policy in 2021 by the Chinese Communist Party, various localities have introduced incentives like cash rewards for childbirth, but these measures have yielded limited results. In an attempt to boost the dwindling birth rate, Beijing authorities have delegated the task of childbirth to the military, which had previously strictly implemented the family planning policy. Hence, the new regulations from the Central Military Commission encouraging childbirth within the military and rewarding servicemen for having 3 children. Qiao Jie, an academician of the Chinese Academy of Engineering and director of Peking University's medical department, stated at the 2023 Medical Innovation and Scientific Frontiers Forum held on August 8th,
The number of newborns in China has dropped by approximately 40% within the last 5 years. In 2022, the total number of births in the country was 9.56 million, and it is expected that the number of births in 2023 will be around 7 to 8 million.
Public data shows that the last time the birth population in mainland China fell below 8 million was during the anti-Japanese War in the 1930s. During the entire 8-year anti-Japanese war, only 1939 had less than 8 million people, and the rest of the years were between 8 and 10 million. At that time, China's population base was only 400 million. At the founding of the Communist Party of China in 1949, especially starting in the 1980s, the Beijing authorities implemented a strict family planning policy. Even so, mainland births exceeded 10 million every year, and it did not fall below 10 million until 2022. Since 1981, the actual population of mainland China has exceeded 1 billion. By around 2022, China's population over 65 years old will account for 14% of the total population, realizing the transition to an aging society. From 2022 onwards, the growth rate of the elderly population is expected to remain above 10 million per year. The characteristics of China's population aging are its large-scale and heavy pension burden. The number of China's elderly population aged 65 and above is greater than the combined elderly population of the 6 major economies of the United States, Japan, Germany, France, the United Kingdom, and South Korea. In 2020, China's nominal per capita GDP was 10,500. While Japan and South Korea reached a similar proportion of aging population, 13.5% aged 65 and over in 1993 and 2016 respectively. At that time, their per capita GDP reached 35,766 and 29,289 US dollars respectively, which is much higher than China's current level. In other words, China is facing the grim reality of getting old before getting rich. Furthermore, the pace of China's population aging is accelerating, currently ranking among the fastest in major global economies. According to statistics from the World Bank, the pace of aging in China significantly sped up after 2008. In 2017, the growth rate of China's aging population surpassed that of Japan, and currently, among major economies, it is only lower than that of South Korea. This comprehensive report not only highlights the new measures introduced for military personnel, but also sheds light on China's broader demographic challenges, underscoring the urgency for effective policy responses. In stark contrast, China's social security expenditure as a percentage of GDP dropped from 3.2% to 2.9% in 2021, significantly lower than the corresponding ratios in France, 27.3%, Japan, 21.6%, Germany, 21.6%, and the United States, 10.7%, during the same period. It has also come to light that the cost of raising a child in China is amongst the highest globally. The expense of raising a child to the age of 18 equates to 6.9 times the per capita GDP, a figure considerably higher than that in France, 2.2 times, Japan, 4.3 times, Germany, 3.6 times, and the US, 4.1 times. Furthermore, the distribution of already limited social security is highly unequal amongst civil servants, corporate employees, and rural residents. This implies that the Chinese government has been shirking its social security responsibilities, pushing the burden onto the public. In 2022, many in China deemed it the first year of negative population growth, intensifying the nationwide discussion on the population crisis. From the number of college entrance examination candidates surpassing the number of births, to witnessing negative population growth in all four first-tier cities of Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen, and a significant reduction in marriage registrations on May 20th, a date phonetically associated with I love you in Chinese, in several provinces. The anxiety over the population crisis seems to be pervading every corner of the country. In the 1990s, Chinese women typically had their first child at the age of 23. This age has now risen to 27.4. The birth rate for first children has also decreased from 0.7 in 2019 to 0.5 at present, indicating that, on average, a woman of childbearing age bears only 0.5 children. Consequently, China's fertility issue is transitioning from late marriage and late childbirth to late marriage and childlessness, or even remaining single and childlessness. Despite the government's relentless encouragement for families to have second and third children, even offering certain policy subsidies, many young people remain unconvinced. These policies and subsidies are but a drop in the bucket compared to the cost of marriage and child rearing. For instance, the Donghu High-Tech Zone in Wuhan offers a childcare subsidy of 10,000 yuan, around 1,370 US dollars, per child per year for families with 3 or more children born after January 1st of 2023, up to the age of 6. This means that the subsidy for the third child can amount to a maximum of 60,000 yuan. However, discussions on Chinese social media about this subsidy are overwhelmingly skeptical. Some netizens have commented, "The wealthy won't care about the 60,000 yuan and will have children regardless. But for the poor, the 60,000 yuan doesn't make much of a difference. It's a one-time payment of 60,000, not 60,000 yuan per year until they turn 18, and certainly not 60,000 per month. Don't get too excited, just calculate the total cost of raising a child until they graduate from college, and you'll lose the desire to have kids."
After giving birth, you still have to deal with work pressure and household chores. It's exhausting. I don't even want one child, let alone 3. If they all get sick at the same time and you don't have a responsible partner or grandparents to help out, life becomes hell.
According to the China Child Rearing Cost Report, the average cost of raising a child from 0 to 17 years old in a Chinese family is 485,000 yuan, around 66,000 US dollars, with urban families requiring 630,000 yuan on average, more than rural ones. Shanghai and Beijing tops the list, with child rearing costs hovering around 1 million yuan. Take Shanghai as an example. The average annual cost of raising a child in Shanghai exceeds 150,000 yuan, or 2,800 US dollars. Many netizens believe this figure is underestimated, but let's work with this lower estimate for now. In comparison, what is the income level in Shanghai? According to statistics from 2022, Shanghai has the highest income in China, with a per capita disposable income of 70,000 yuan. Taking into account a combined disposable income of 140,000 yuan for both spouses, even an average couple's total income falls short of covering the basic costs of raising a child. Thus, for the urban working class, not to mention having a second or third child, raising just one child is already a considerable strain. So, who stands to benefit more from the Communist Party's newly introduced three-child policy? The answer is two types of individuals. Firstly, those for whom children wouldn't be a financial burden, regardless of the number of offspring. Secondly, those who can completely disregard the financial aspects of child rearing, namely the affluent. In other words, those who can afford to have 3 children are either extremely impoverished or exceedingly wealthy. Conversely, the middle-class working population finds it challenging to afford more children. However, since the wealthy are in the minority, their reproductive choices do not significantly impact the overall population structure. Thus, the majority are likely to be those living in poverty. An increase in childbirth within this demographic could lead to substantial changes in China's population structure. Generally speaking, the poor are constrained by their family background, educational level, and financial resources, limiting their perspectives. This group is also more susceptible to manipulation and indoctrination. If the new child policy cultivates a large number of naive and subservient individuals, it would serve the interests of the Chinese communist regime extremely well. Turning our attention to the Chinese communist elite, are they also bound by this childbirth policy? Of course not. They are the rule makers, and these rules are meant to govern the ruled, not themselves. Setting aside the issue of children within marriages, the Chinese communist elite face no restrictions regarding the number of children they can have biologically. Having children out of wedlock and maintaining mistresses is a prevalent practice among this group. Therefore, for many influential figures within the communist system, the number of children they have is virtually unrestricted. Consequently, the one husband, one wife legal framework fails to impose any effective constraints on them. Presently, the family structures of the 100 or so powerful Chinese communist families controlling China are essentially based on this dual-track system. In other words, there exists a stark contrast in the treatment of the Chinese communist elite, the rulers, and the common citizens, the ruled, concerning China's current marriage, family structure, childbirth policies, and related systems. This disparity represents another dual-track system in communist China, extending to family and marriage. What does this dual-track system truly entail? The Communist Party has long extolled the virtues of Marxism. Let's consider the views of Friedrich Engels, a key figure in Marxist theory, on this matter. In his book, The Origin of the Family, Private Property, and the State, Engels explicitly states that polygamy is a product of the slave society and is limited to a few individuals in special positions. Polygamy is a privilege of the wealthy and distinguished, primarily attained through purchasing female slaves, while the general populace adheres to monogamy. In other words, the distinction between polygamy and monogamy serves as a significant reference point in differentiating the Chinese communist elite from the common citizens. This phenomenon has persisted since the inception of the Communist Party. Li Rui, Mao Zedong's former secretary, a member of the Central Advisory Committee of the Communist Party of China, and an expert in party history, once shared, after moving to Beijing, Mao Zedong gradually grew close to Yang Kai-hui, leading to their marriage and 3 children. In 1928, despite leading military campaigns in Changsha, passing near Yang Kai-hui's home in Dongxiang, 30 kilometers from Banchang, Mao Zedong did not visit her. Why? In 1928, upon arriving at Jinggangshan, he became involved with He Zichen, which Yang Kaihui eventually discovered through her brother, Yang Kaizhi, a member of the underground provincial committee of the Communist Party in Hunan. Upon returning from Jinggangshan in 1928, Yang Kaizhi informed his sister. In the 1980s, while renovating Yang Kaihui's former residence in Hunan and dismantling a wall, numerous letters and notes were discovered. The Communist Party's internal publications in Hunan compiled and published these writings, which I have seen. A woman from Hunan informed me 3 years ago that many had seen the original documents, but some content was omitted in the published version. She revealed that 8 words describing Mao Zedong's character were deleted. A hooligan in life, a hooligan in politics. A precise and accurate description. Historically, the so-called social welfare and security system in Communist China has been practically non-existent, utterly failing to meet the most basic social needs. Take pensions, for example, where massive disparities exist in distribution. Under China's unique household registration system, the population is artificially divided into urban and rural residents. Consequently, basic pension benefits are bifurcated into urban employees and rural residents. Furthermore, government and public institution personnel and enterprise employees within the urban employees category receive vastly different benefits. Retired personnel from government and public institutions typically receive more than twice the pension of enterprise employees, and at least 20 times more than the rural residents. In rural areas, especially remote regions, many elderly individuals lack social security, essentially left to fend for themselves.
Grandpa, why are you picking vegetable leaves on the ground? What are you doing? This was thrown away by someone else.
It was thrown away. I picked it up, took it home, washed and cooked it with noodles.
Washed and cooked with noodles? Do you have a wife at home?
No more, just me.
Just yourself? Do you usually cook by yourself? How old are you?
92 years old. Usually I only have 2 yuan in my pocket.
Then tell me what you want to buy.
No.
How much does it cost to eat for a month?
It costs 70 to 80 yuan a month to eat. 50 to 60 yuan.
50 or 60 yuan a month isn't enough to buy anything.
There's nothing we can do about it.
Hey, whatever you want to eat, I'll buy you some.
I won't let you buy it. My wife has been dead for more than 10 years.
Your son also passed away and you live alone?
When my wife passed away, I was 82 and she was 81. You know I am over 90 this year. Wasn't that the past 10 years?
You take care of yourself. Come with me and I'll buy you something to eat.
Thank you. I won't eat it and I don't want you to buy it. In addition, among the total population of China, there is a special group that has been deliberately ignored by the CCP, disabled people. Regarding the total number of people with disabilities in China, the Beijing authorities organized the second nationwide sample survey of persons with disabilities in 2006, which was also the last large-scale survey to date. At that time, the total number of disabled people in the country was estimated to be approximately 83 million. The total population of the country at that time was 1.3 billion, and the proportion of disabled people was 6.31%. This ratio is very high. According to this survey result, the severely disabled population, defined as those who cannot take care of themselves, is 24.6 million, accounting for almost 30% of the disabled population. However, there has been no further mention since then, and this huge group has also disappeared from various propaganda reports of the CCP. Today, their lives and deaths, including the living conditions of the elderly and disabled, have become state secrets that the CCP tries its best to avoid and cover up.
Take a look. These are the pomegranates I grow on my property.
Oh, such an expansive orchard. Uncle, what happened to your leg?
I have polio in this leg.
Polio? How many years has it been?
It's been almost 53, almost 54 years.
Did you ever seek treatment?
Well, hospitals are not a place we can afford to go.
Do you manage all these pomegranates by yourself?
If I don't take care of them, what else can I do?
Uncle, besides pomegranates, do you have any other source of income?
I also keep a flock of sheep.
You raise sheep too. Who helps you manage them?
I heard them up the mountain myself.
You can climb the mountain with your leg?
Yes, I can. No. Try tasting the pomegranates.
Wow, they are so translucent. They're sweet, juicy, and every seed is plump. Uncle, your pomegranates are delicious. Where is your spouse?
She's gone. She passed away right after giving birth.
So you've been taking care of everything, raising your child all by yourself?
I've been raising him all by myself.
From this perspective, for China, the world's second largest economy, rapid aging and a decreasing labor force has already brought about severe consequences. A shortage of labor means reduced government tax revenue, placing an even greater burden on an already fragile social welfare security system. Sociologist Yi Fuxian from the University of Wisconsin warns, without a social welfare net and family security, the pension crisis could turn into a humanitarian disaster. In fact, the swift onset of a population crisis will leave many Chinese in a society of aging before becoming wealthy, living in unbearable pain, some even wishing for death. The so-called three-child policy recently introduced by the CCP is, in fact, a deception. To escape the swiftly approaching population crisis and the humanitarian disaster created by the CCP, they devised this seemingly clever solution. From its inception, the policy was designed to encourage the lower classes to have more children. The poorer the people, the more beneficial it is for the Beijing authorities. In the eyes of the CCP elite, Chinese people are not regarded as human beings, but rather as slaves or livestock, property to be owned, tools that can talk. In the past, because of an underdeveloped economy, having too many livestock consumed too much grain, leading to the implementation of family planning. Now, there is a shortage of livestock to do the hard labor, hence the encouragement to have more children. After Xi Jinping came to power, he adopted a series of extreme policies reminiscent of the Mao era, especially the strict lockdowns during the 3 years of the pandemic, as well as the comprehensive and even direct confrontation with Western countries led by the United States, leading to a rapid deterioration of the social environment and a severe economic recession. The current collapse of the real estate market, bank runs, withdrawal of foreign capital, a large number of business closures, and mass unemployment have made various crises, including the population crisis, even more prominent and intensified, potentially leading to large-scale humanitarian disasters and more severe social crises. There is a Chinese proverb, too smart for one's own good. The so-called low-end population at the bottom of Chinese society, its rapid increase may not necessarily benefit the rule of the CCP elites, especially in times of crisis. It could significantly increase the likelihood of social instability. Therefore, Xi Jinping's order for the military to take the lead in implementing the so-called three-child policy not only fails to solve the problem, but might be adding fuel to the flames.